Hi, welcome back. My name's Natalia if you're new here, and today I wanted to share my plans for the fall for both crochet and knitting projects. So any of the patterns I mentioned will absolutely be in the description box below, along with some of the yarns that I'll be pulling up for my stash as ideas of what I'm going to use in these patterns. So let's get started. So starting with crochet, I do want to mention that crochet to me really means plushies. I'm not really talking about wearables or accessories. I love to make amigurumi. So those are the patterns that I'll be focusing on today. And they include both the traditional Halloween patterns, the ghosts, the pumpkins, the witches, the gnomes with candy corn that are adorable. But that's my focus for crochet. So the first item that caught my eye while I was browsing was this ghost with a pumpkin, and it looks so sweet and so huggable. So I want to try actually using different types of yarns with this plushie. So my tried and true go-to is the Bernat blanket yarn, and that's what I make the vast majority of my plushies with. But I also want to try the Bernat velvet, which is a size 5 bulky yarn. So it'll be a bit smaller, but it is incredibly soft and a different feel than the super bulky blanket yarn. So I want to try that one. And then I also picked up the Big Twist Value, which is a size 4. So it'll be smaller, but I'm wondering how it turns out if it's more of a decor piece as opposed to a plushie that would be a good fit for a child to hold, essentially. So I want to try some different yarns this time around. And it's really actually my first time doing themed plushies. I didn't do ghosts or anything like that last year. So this is my first time going into a season where I'm being very specific with these are the patterns that I want to try out, rather than just I like these patterns, regardless of being a dinosaur, a giraffe, etc., and trying my hand at those. So that's the first one that caught my eye. The second one that caught my eye was this adorable ghost walking a dog. And this one I actually picked up the glow in the dark yarn. So I'm really excited to see how this turns out. And this is a size 4 yarn, which feels very thin to me. And I think I'm just so used to using the super bulky yarn. So I picked up a couple skeins of these and I want to try making it as is, just as a size 4, and then using a different skein and holding it double and see how much larger the project will turn out to be, but it'll still all be glow in the dark. So I really want to see how that turns out. The other project that came to mind that I had saved a while back in my feed was this ghost lovey. I have absolutely adored making loveys. Mama Made minis are some of my go-tos, and this just looks so appropriate for Halloween and the fall, but also just so cuddly and adorable still. So it's a lot of white because a lot of these are ghost patterns so far, but I know this one is one that I'll really enjoy making and trying those different yarns and seeing how it turns out. Another pattern that came up was a mummy. This mummy looks really cute to me, introducing a bit of color, but still some white around it. But it just looks like such an adorable, more decor piece than plushie for hugging, potentially. But I do want to try and make that with a size 4 yarn, probably. And then, of course, very on theme for fall are pumpkins. So I have some leftover very neon orange blanket yarn from a different project. And I want to try and use that up, make a few different pumpkins of different sizes. I also got some of the Big Twist Value in orange. So they'll make smaller pumpkins with a size 4, or maybe I'll double it up and see how that turns out. So I'll make pumpkins. There's this adorable pumpkin gnome that I really want to try to make. It just different colors, and that little hanging pumpkin is just too cute. So I want to make that one. Maybe a candy corn gnome. I'll probably use that pattern and just change up the colors and see how that looks. But so these are some of the fall and Halloween specific items I want to make in the next couple months. But I'm also not tying myself down to just these patterns. If anything else comes across my feed that is adorable, I will probably add it on. And also non-themed plushies, because I do have 2 friends who are pregnant and due in the fall. So I'll probably still make a plushie for them, or a lovey from Mama Made Minis that has nothing to do with Halloween, for example. Some non-plushy crochet items that I do want to make. I want to try making a blanket. So I've seen two different blankets. I've seen a granny stripe stitch that I want to try. And I would like to use up some of the yarn that I don't want to use for plushies because it just falls apart. So I want to try to do that. And then I also discovered mosaic crochet, or overlay mosaic crochets, I think it's called. And this pattern really caught my eye, and it's absolutely stunning, but it looks very difficult and very time consuming. So I do want to try to get started on it, but I don't think it's something I'll finish this fall or even winter. Potentially maybe next winter, but it is something I want to try my hand at. So those are all the items that I have in mind for crochet, and I wanted to jump over into knitting. So knitting is going to be something completely new to me this fall. When I was a kid, my grandma had taught me how to knit little baby socks with her, but that was well over 25 years ago. And I found that I wanted to try my hand at making a wearable. I really want to try to make a sweater for myself. And I found that all the patterns that were coming up, I tended to gravitate to the patterns that were knitted sweaters as opposed to crochet sweaters. I think for some reason I do like the look of those knitted sweaters a bit better. So I want to try to make that. With that being said, I do remember that I learned best how to crochet with the Wobbles kit because of the video tutorials that came along with the kit. So I ended up looking on YouTube and I found this pattern here by Ashley Lillis. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. But she has step by step, really close up instructions of how to make a knitted sweater. So it's a very simple raglan sweater with no body shaping or anything like that. And I've watched the video through about 2 or 3 times now, and she's very detailed. So I've got the yarn she recommends already on the way, and that'll be my first project. So I'm really looking forward to that. Might be a bit ambitious to pick up knitting needles and just go into a sweater from the get-go. So I'll probably just try my hand at making little squares, which obviously I still need to make a gauge swatch anyway. So I'll try that, see how the needles feel in my hands, see how I hold the yarn, because I know there are different styles, etc. But I'm really excited to try that. And depending on how my first sweater goes, I have a giant list on Ravelry now of saved sweaters that I would love to make one day. And if my first one goes well, I would love to jump into a petite knit sweater. Some of her beginner friendly ones are like the cloud sweater, which really appeals to me. So depending on how that first one goes, I'll jump into the next step of just following a written pattern and see how that goes. So those are all my project plans for the fall as so far. I'm sure more things will come up in my feed that really catch my eye, and I'll add to my list of projects to get to. Hopefully I have all the colors for them already at home. Um, but I'll probably do a check-in in about a month and just show you what projects I've made so far, how they're looking, the different yarn comparisons that I want to try out. And I'll also add today's information, not only to the description box, but I'll add as a blog post on my website. So it has all of the patterns, all of the yarn, the same information. So hopefully this gives you some ideas of what to make for the fall as well, and what I'll be making. And I'll check in about a month's time, and I would love to hear what you're also crocheting for the fall. With that, thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.